I think for me, sometimes I write the same poem over and over again because I haven't figured out how to tell the story yet. So this is one I've been writing over and over and over. And I don't know if I'm any closer, but this is where it is right now. It didn't always work like this. There was a time you had to get your hands dirty. When you were in the dark for most of it, fumbling was a given. When you needed more contrast, darker darks and brighter brights, they called it extended development. Meant you spent longer up to your wrists, longer inhaling chemicals. It wasn't always easy. Grandpa Stewart was a Navy photographer, young, red-faced with his sleeves rolled up. Crooked smile, tuft of chest hair. He looked like Popeye the Sailor Man come to life. Fist of fingers like fat rolls of coins. He showed up to World War II with a smirk and a hobby. When they asked him if he knew much about photography, he lied. Learned to read Europe upside down from the height of a fighter plane. Camera snapping, eyelids flapping, the darkest darks and the brightest brights. He learned war like it was a map, thought he could read his way home. When other men returned, they put their weapons out to rust, but he brought the lenses and the cameras home with him, opened a shop, turned it into a family affair. My father was born into this world of black and white. His basketball hands learned the tiny clicks and slides of lens into frame, film into camera, chemical into plastic bin. His father knew the equipment, but not the art. He knew the darks, but not the brights. My father learned the magic, spent his time following light. Once, he traveled across the country to follow a forest fire, spent a week hunting it with his camera. Follow the light, he said. Follow the light. There are parts of me I only recognize from photographs. The loft on Wooster Street with the creaky hallways and 12-foot ceilings, the white walls and cold floors. This was my mother's home. Before she was mother, before she was wife, she was artist. And the only rooms in the house with doors that opened and closed and walls that reached up to the ceiling was the bathroom and the dark room. The dark room she built herself with custom-made stainless steel sinks for washing prints and washing film, an 8x10 bed and larger that moved up and down by a giant hand crank, a bank of color-balanced lights, a white glass wall for viewing prints, a handmade drying rack that folded in and out from the wall. My mother built herself a dark room, made it her home, fell in love with a man with basketball hands, with the way he looked at light. They got married, had a baby, moved to a house near a park, but they kept the loft on Wooster Street to use for birthday parties and treasure hunts. The baby tipped the grayscale, filled her parents' photo albums with red balloons and yellow icing. The baby turned into a girl without freckles, with a crooked smile, who didn't understand why her friends didn't have dark rooms in their houses, who never saw her parents kiss, who never saw them hold hands. But one day, another baby showed up, this one with perfect straight hair and bubblegum cheeks. They named him Sweet Potato, and when he laughed so loudly it scared the pigeons on the fire escape, and the four of them lived in that house near the park, the girl without freckles, the sweet potato boy, the basketball father, and dark room mother, and they lit their candles and said their prayers, and the corners of the photographs curled. One day, some towers fell, and the house near the park became a house under ash, so they escaped in backpacks, on bicycles, to dark rooms. But the loft on Wooster Street was built for an artist, not a family of pigeons, and walls that do not reach the ceiling do not keep in the yelling, and the man with basketball hands put his weapons out to rust. He could not fight this war, and no maps pointed home. His hands no longer fit his wife's, no longer fit his camera, no longer fit his body. The sweet potato boy mashed his fists into his mouth until he had nothing more to say, so the girl without freckles went treasure hunting on her own. And on Wooster Street, in New York City, In the building with the creaky hallways, in the loft with the high ceilings, in the dark room with too many sinks, under the color-balanced light, she found a note, tacked to the wall with a thumbtack, left over from a time before towers, from a time before babies. And the note said, "A guy sure loves a girl who works in the dark room." It was a year before my father picked up a camera again. As first time out, he followed the Christmas lights, dotting their way through New York City's trees, tiny flashes of light winking out at him from out of the darkest darks. A few years later, he traveled across the country to follow a fire. It was ravaging the West Coast, devouring 18-wheeler trucks in its stride. He stayed for a week, hunting it with his camera. On the other side of the country, I went to class and wrote a poem in the margins of my notebook. We have both learned the art of capture. Maybe we're learning the art of embracing. Maybe we're learning the art of letting go.